I started my web design agency back in 2014, and to be honest, back then I didn't really have a clue how to run a business. I was a really good web designer and I'd worked for some great agencies, so I had a rough idea about how things should work, but there was still a lot that I wasn't prepared for. A decade later, and after quite a steep learning curve, I built a thriving agency that I was able to sell. In this video, I'm going to share the 5 things I wish I'd known before I started. Hi, thanks for joining. If you're new to this channel, I'm Rich Dean, a web designer and developer, former web agency owner, and author of the book series Start, Grow and Sell Your Web Design Agency. My goal is to help anyone looking to start, grow and sell an agency to save time, earn more money, avoid the common mistakes and pitfalls, and build a thriving and valuable business. Okay, so on to the main topic, starting with number 1, business is about people. We tend to think of businesses like these kind of mechanical things that work like some big machine to produce some kind of result, and that is how a good business should operate. But actually, all businesses really are just people working together, doing something together for other people. That probably sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised just how many people don't really grasp that one simple fact. I've seen people who think they can hide behind their businesses, or I've seen people who think they can act in a certain way, especially if it's not a very good way, and that it's okay because it's just business. But I realised quite early on that everything within a business is about people, from what the business offers to who does the work to who eventually buys what the business sells. It's all about people. And so how you act and conduct yourself should always be focused on helping people and always trying to achieve a positive outcome for whoever's involved. I think if you don't remember this, and if you treat every situation like it's just some kind of detached action and it doesn't have an impact on someone somewhere, you might struggle. But if everything you do within your business is guided by the simple principle that you're in service to other people, and that regardless of whether you do a good job or a bad one, it will impact people in some way, then you should go far. Okay, so just before we go any further, please don't forget to like and subscribe. This really helps us to grow the channel so that we can make more helpful content like this. Right, back to the main topic. Number 2, people can be unpredictable. Okay, so this one isn't really unique to business, but I think I was a bit surprised by just how unpredictable the people you work with can be when you run a business. Sometimes this can be a good thing, but sometimes it's not, and this can apply to both employees and clients. With clients, I definitely notice a few common things. First, clients can blow hot and cold. One minute they can be desperate for their website, but then you don't hear from them for weeks or even months at a time. Clients can also be really bad at telling you what they want, but really good at telling you what they don't want. So you kind of have to be part detective, part psychic. To be fair though, it's not really a client's job to tell you what they want from a new website. You'll need to better find ways to get the information you need from them and also manage them when they take you around the houses. Clients can also have very different attitudes towards paying you for the work that you do. Some will pay quickly, but some will take a long time. Some will pay thousands without blinking an eyelid, while others will haggle over 50 quids. So you'll need to get used to being paid in a very sporadic and unpredictable way. Employees can also be unpredictable, and this is probably one of the biggest things that caught me out when I first started to grow my team. I got lucky with my first employee. I won't name him, but if you're watching, you know who you are. He was amazing, but then after that, it was a bit of a mixed bag. Again, some of my employees were incredible, but some didn't do so well. You never really know how someone's going to work out until they've worked with you for a while. It's not something you can always tell from just a couple of interviews. Sometimes they will do what you ask them to do, but other times they can go off in very weird and wonderful directions. Again though, this isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes you'll ask them to do one thing and they'll come back with something completely different that blows you away, but in a really good way. But probably the biggest thing I learned was that if you want your people to do things a certain way, you need to be very specific with them. You need to tell them what you want to do, then tell them again, then tell them once more just to be sure. And even then, there's still no guarantee that what you get back is what you expected. That is part of what makes running a business fun, but it's also a good crossover to the next point. Number 3, the importance of systems and processes. So probably the best way that I can explain this one is to go back to that point I just mentioned when I first started recruiting. Up to then, I'd worked on my own, so I developed a very specific way that I design and develop websites. I think I'm naturally quite a systematic person, and perhaps I didn't realize it at the time, but I had created my own kind of boilerplate and system for creating websites. I had a very specific way of working that I use across all my projects, and it saved me a lot of time and made my life easier. But it was all in my head. So when I got to the point where I had more work than I could handle on my own, I just thought that I could hire more designers and developers and they would just pick things up and do them the way that I did with just a little bit of training. but I was wrong. Like I said earlier, I got lucky with my first employee. He was brilliant, but after that, it was hit and miss, and it all became a bit of a mess. I had no systems in place, and it wasn't long until clients were complaining, and I was having to spend all this extra time managing people and redoing their work because the quality wasn't good enough. It was a complete nightmare. But then someone recommended a book called The E-Myth Revisited by Michael E. Gerber, and it literally changed the way that I thought about everything in my business. If you haven't read it, I'd recommend that you do. I won't do it the injustice of trying to summarize it properly here, but basically, it talks about how important systematizing your business is. Up to that point, I'd never really thought about it, but from then on, I invested a lot of time developing systems and processes that meant everyone in my business could do things the same way that I did and to the same standards. Number 4, you have to learn to live with uncertainty. If you're currently an employee in someone else's business, then you're probably used to a fairly stable and predictable life. I've talked about this in my other videos, but being employed usually means that you start work every day with work to do. You don't have to worry too much about where that work comes from. And then at the end of each month, or whenever it is you get paid, you get your salary without having to worry too much about it. That was certainly my life when I was an employee. And when I started my own agency, I just thought that I could create this lifestyle business. I could work when I wanted, have a steady stream of work always coming in, and that it would all be fairly easy. But the truth is, that uncertainty never really goes away. And that's the same for any business, even the ones who have more long-term contracts or repeat business. Agency life is very much feast or famine. Sometimes you have more work than you can handle, but then you find yourself wondering where it all went and why you're struggling to find new projects. Sometimes you have months and months of work booked in, but other times you're worrying about what you're going to be doing in a couple of weeks' time. To be fair, that's also part of what makes running a business so fun and exciting, but it's not always an easy ride. Number 5, communication, communication, communication. In business, you can't communicate too much, whether that's with your employees, as we've just seen, or whether that's with your clients. You just can't over communicate. In fact, if you want your clients to have a great experience with you, and you should, because it means they'll spend more money with you and recommend you to other people, then the first place to start is with communication. Or, to flip that on its head, if your business is struggling and you're getting a lot of negativity or complaints from your clients, communication is probably where you're going wrong. The truth is, how good you are at making websites is only one part of it. You can be the best at what you do and make incredible websites, but if you don't communicate well with your clients, if you leave them guessing, if you don't keep them up to speed, if you ignore their calls or emails, then it won't matter how good you are. All they will feel is frustration and negativity. So communicate, communicate, communicate. Okay, so those are the 5 biggest lessons I learned from running my web design agency. If you've enjoyed this video, then please don't forget to like and subscribe. This will really help us to grow the channel so that we can carry on making helpful content just like this. I also discuss topics just like this and a whole lot more in my book series, Start, Grow and Sell Your Web Design Agency. So if you want expert insight into how to run your agency, head over to Amazon where you can buy that now, and I'll share a link in the description below. And if you'd like to watch more informative content, then why not try this video here. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.